Next item on the agenda is a prayer for guidance, and let's bow our heads and pray. Father God, we thank you for this glorious day that you've given to us. We thank you for your goodness and your blessings in our lives and in the life of our community. All those who reside within our township, we praise you for the ways in which you've blessed us in the years gone by and for how you are leading us into the future. We pray that this evening as we meet, as we discuss, and as we take action, that may be done in order to continue that progress and for the betterment, the health, safety, and welfare of all of our residents. So we give you praise and thanks for leading us and for your promise to be with us day by day. And for all the myriad of blessings, we give you thanks. So be with us now in this meeting, and may it bring honor and glory to you. We pray in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let the minutes indicate that Mr. Wieringa and Dr. Moore are absent and that the other members of the board are present. Our first item of business is the approval of the agenda for February 9, 2015. Board members?
So moved.
Support.
It's moved and supported. Any discussion about the agenda?
I would like to add to the agenda a closed session for property acquisition.
Support.
Moved and supported. And
Is there
go ahead.
new information for us to consider tonight?
Yes.
Okay.
Does this require a 2/3?
If you're setting it on the agenda now, you can set it, if the board approves it as part of the agenda, it's okay.
Okay. Any other questions about that motion? Are we ready to vote? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's carried. So we will, at the conclusion of our agenda, before we have an adjournment, we will go into closed session. Remind me of that, please. Now the motion is to approve the agenda, and I don't believe anyone made a motion to do that. I think a motion was made to, was there? Okay. Now as that was added, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, the same. That's carried. Then, just for information, the communications letters and reports, and they will be filed. Then we come to item number 8 on the agenda. This is the opportunity for public comment where anyone in the audience may address the board. We ask that you come forward and give us your name and your address, and you have 3 minutes to address us.
Michael Bosch, 896 Fairwood Court. I drew the short straw. Chad, you know what that's like? At the January 12th board meeting, I had a question regarding the less than aesthetically pleasing natural growth around our lakes and ponds. And I asked Dan, if that was tied to grant or free government money, and Dan said no. Well, I did a little research, looked, and found in the board meeting minutes of August 2012, under discussions and general information, I was actually correct. It's tied to the free money. And in the discussion, in regards to ponds and lakes' natural growth along the water's edge, the township superintendent explained the reason for the natural growth, citing the Federal Clean Water Act and regulations for the discharge, stimulus dollars coming down from the federal government through the state government. So we just got to be careful when we, sign up for these grants and the free money that we don't go and hang ourselves with the strings that are usually attached. And then also I wanted to talk about trash cans. But it was about 3 or 4 weeks ago at a services meeting that I asked what we needed to do to get some trash cans at the Rosewood Park, the Charlie's dump sledding hill. I'd been there a few times and I noticed people kind of pile up broken sleds and stuff because there's no place to throw it away. So I asked, what do we need to do to get some? And here's our chance to do some beautification that wouldn't cost millions of taxpayer dollars, be less than $50. But once again, it's just another example of not taking care of what we already have, but in the same breath, asking for more. I know they say the wheels of government turn slowly, but really 4 weeks for a couple of trash cans. And I'm not talking about some $800 per trash can variety, like the one spec'd out at the $1 million future improvements for the Rosewood Park. I'm talking just a couple 55-gallon steel drums, kind you can get on Craigslist for about $15 a piece. Something simple. I probably should have been more specific and clear when I requested a couple trash cans that we just need a couple cheap barrels for trash. Hopefully we haven't contacted MC Smith for some $2,000 drawings of $800 trash cans under a covered structure complete with accented lighting, concrete paths leading up to it, the receptacles, walkability, possibility of some future grant money. Just simple and cheap. That's all I was thinking. Nothing over the top or excessive. No unnecessary spending. And then I thought maybe we could have the Parks Department move a couple of trash cans that are already sitting there at the park. They're set back in the snowed-in area, behind the snowbank, buried in snow. Can't get to them because it's winter. Might as well get some more use out of those before they're thrown away. With the upcoming park renovations coming, I'm guessing we're not going to reuse them because we have that fancy new $800 trash can spec'd. But maybe we could take those, move them over because they're probably going to get thrown away. And I did have a question. How much did those trash cans cost us? And the picnic tables that are there, when did we buy those? And will they be reused at the new park plans or will they be just thrown away? Because that was one of the things I thought with, if we get the fancy ones, you get $2,000 for a picnic table, but it'll stand up to vandalism and last forever. But if we're going to replace them after 5 or 10 years, like the ones that are there, what's the point? Let's go cheap. Common sense solutions shouldn't cost a lot of money.
Your 3 minutes are up, Mike.
Thanks.
Anyone else that would like to address the board? Yes, sir.
Good evening, gentlemen. My name is James Thompson. I'd like to thank you for giving
Your
me this
address,
time.
please, Mr. Thompson.
My address is 1631 Jackson. I'm a resident of that stretch of Jackson that is gravelled, and I'm also a representative of the about 86% of the people on that stretch of road that would like to see it paved. And I gave a letter to Peggy, the secretary, to give to all you. Maybe you've had a chance to look at it.
We did receive it, yes, sir.
Another gentleman on the road and myself took the time to formulate that thing and just kind of condense it down into about 4 items that we felt were real critical items that were reasons why the road should be paved. The main reason I'm here is just to, I read the article in the advance of the priorities of the township, and I just want to see where we stand on the ladder of priorities, if there is a priority there or not. And that's the main reason why I'm using my 3 minutes here. I'd appreciate it if we could get on a priority list, and right now, we have to call the county if the road is to the point where we can't drive on it because of potholes and that, to come out and grade it and throw more gravel on it. Every time it rains, there's a major hill system there that washes out, and we didn't even put that in the letter, but safety is a huge part of the problem for this thing. So if I could have some response to where we stand on priorities for the road being paved, I'd appreciate it. I can go back to the number of people that sent me here and try to report to them. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Thompson, just quickly,
Sure.
This would be, in my opinion, referred to the Utilities Committee, which meets, what's our next date?
A month from today, but I can talk to you after the meeting and talk about the process if you have time.
Yeah, I'll stay.
Okay? Yes.
Okay, and then Mr. Carlton will talk with you, but typically that would be referred to the Utilities Committee, and you would be invited to come to that and discuss those issues at that point. But let's first have you talk with Mr. Carlton.
Okay.
And then go from there. So we are all aware of it, and we certainly want to do what ought to be done.
Okay. And the utilities meeting is online?
The minutes?
No, the time that they meet.
Yes.
If I appear at the utilities.
And it would be scheduled for a month from today, following the regular board meeting. So whatever time the board meeting is finished, then the Utilities Committee meets in the back of this room, and they meet at that point.
All right.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else who'd like to address the board at this point?
Edward Sosa, 7927 Kinmont Court. Two things. I just know that you purchased a property over, I think, on Mill Street and those kinds of things, you know. But those of us who are members of the website For the Love of Georgetown Township, you know, there's over 700 members on there. A lot of us, we come to meetings, we attend different kinds of meetings, not just these board meetings and stuff. And you know what, when I was an administrator, I used to always make the quote that if we talk amongst ourselves enough about it, then everybody must know. I just don't think we should have to dig and call the office to find out why you're purchasing property, what you're going to do with it. I know that one member did write a letter, and then two of the board members did respond, and then they educated us, and they told us that, I guess, previous board members had wanted to beautify or the gateway, and that's why that property. Well, you know, what I'm telling you in short is that we don't know about that. You need to, when you make a decision and you vote on it, you know, educate the community every time you make a decision, so we don't have to be guessing, and, you know, people's perceptions of the realities, and lots of times they come out negative against you. So, you know, we don't want to be negative. We just want to be kept informed. You know, if you want to run this as a democracy, keep us informed of what's going on. My second topic I'd like to talk about is I've been going to a lot of meetings, and I read the stuff on the Facebook page about the board meetings and stuff, and just the way you take minutes. I don't like it because, like, for example, I went to a finance committee meeting, and then it said under public comment, it doesn't even acknowledge that anybody was there. It just says public comments. Public comments and members of the public were present, and public comments were made. You should at least bullet what the topics that we're talking about. I went to a goal-setting meeting, your very first one that you had. We didn't have an opportunity to have public comment yet. When I read the minutes, it states no public comments were made. So I asked you, you know, to at least bullet. Matter of fact, I've done my homework. I've called other organizations. I've called colleges, board of trustees offices, and things like that. They will bullet the topics that were covered. So like tonight when we're talking about different things, you know, the documentation for minutes, it's a legal documentation. You know, I know that I've heard different rumors and factual stuff where you don't like to be recorded and taped, and you don't want the media here to be listening to what you're saying and stuff. But, you know, if we ever had to go to court on something, you're protecting yourselves because you're not putting minutes down and what's being covered. So everything we talk about tonight, I grant it, next time when the minutes come out, you're probably going to write public comments took place. So I might want to propose this. I don't know what the legalities are, but instead of taking minutes for the board here, why don't you just have one sheet of paper and then write down a township board meeting took place and call it good. You know, we need to have more documentation as far in representation as far as what the community members are saying to you, so there's no documentation for that. So I would really encourage you to do that. We shouldn't have to be looking for stuff.
Let me just clarify a comment that you made, Mr. Sosa, and that is to say there's no one on this board who does not want to be heard or does not want to be recorded. I don't know where you heard that. I don't know where that's coming from, but that's totally false. And so if you're going to address us, at least come with correct information, because that's what you expect from us. We also expect it from you. Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to address the board? Not seeing anyone, then we'll move on to the consent agenda. You have the consent agenda before you. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. Anything that anyone would like taken off the consent agenda? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. That is carried. Then the next item deals with complete streets, and the motion is to approve accepting the proposal from Bryan and Newhoff for professional services for complete streets. And I will move this to get it, and if someone supports it, to get it on the floor for discussion. Support. Moved and supported. Any comments that anyone would like to make? Let me just highlight one thing with regard to this, and that is that I see that this will be something that will help us as we look down the road. It may not be immediate, but this is going to give us a kind of a plan, and I have a feeling that some of this that we may discover will dovetail with our master plan as well. Some of these issues, in addition to the park plan, but also in addition to one of the areas of priority, we talked about trails and so forth. And so I'm excited about this only because I'm looking down the road 5, 10, 15, 20 years, and it goes to very well even this comment that was made by Mr. Thompson relative to Jackson Street. And so I'm, as you know, very much in favor of this. Other comments?
Rich, I think this is a strong positive step in the right direction. I like their information. I thought it was very detailed. They said in their letter they'd be looking at paved shoulders, sidewalks, bike lanes, separate paths, separated paths, retaining walls, boardwalks, culverts, clearing and grading, and would help us with funding opportunities that might be out there. Very knowledgeable. I think we're long overdue for something like this. We get many complaints from the public about not having sidewalks. Certainly in the future, as we're looking at road work, to have experts that have looked at this and we have a plan to go forward, it seems like a smart idea.
Thank you.
Rich, do they have an idea how long it will take to put this information together and for us to get a report?
I don't know if that information is in here.
See it.
They're scheduled to have, I don't know the answer to your question specifically, but according to the proposal, they're scheduled to have 3 meetings. And my sense would be that once the weather breaks a bit, because they're going to want to go through the community, and so it probably wouldn't start to really take shape until springtime, and then shortly thereafter, but I have no idea, unless our superintendent might know.
No, I assume it would take several months, though.
Anybody else? Okay, the motion is made and supported. We're ready to vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, the same. That's carried. The next item is an update on the microphone system. This is something that we have talked about in the past. The microphones that we had, that we're using this evening, we bought some batteries with the hope that that would help. Some of the, you probably already heard tonight, a couple of times they go in and out, and as the meeting goes on during the evening, that some of them just kind of fade out completely. So this is coming back to approve the proposal for the purchase of the wireless microphones without the 1-year support, and a motion would be in order to approve that.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. This is the proposal from AVI for the wireless microphones, and you have that in front of you. You probably noticed that part of that, there was a section there that dealt with the service agreement. We're not including that part of their proposal in this motion. Are we ready to vote? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Contrary, no. That is carried. Item 12. This is the Veterans Plaza, which we've also discussed, and the motion is to approve a budget of up to $250,000 for a preliminary design for a Veterans Plaza to include the bricks. And I would make that motion. If someone supports it, then we can discuss it.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any comments?
Just one clarity, just so
Yes.
everyone understands, this is the project budget, not the design budget. I know that someone brought up that question to me, and I just want to make sure that's clear, and we'll have that clear to understand. So the project, total project, they'll do a design.
Right, we're not spending that amount of money to get a design. We're spending, this is what the entire project would cost, correct?
Dan, just to clarify then, the outcome of this motion is that design work will be done. Ultimately, there will be a future decision on whether or not to proceed with construction of that design work. So
Correct.
this motion is strictly to authorize design work.
Yes.
Okay.
With that budget in mind.
And you'll notice it says including the bricks. That has reference to the bricks that were purchased. When we had the original, we had two proposals given by MC Smith, the Premier and the Basic, and the Basic did not have the inclusion of those pavers, and yet the Premier did. And so, as we talked before, if we want to get those bricks there, that would be an additional expense.
Can we clarify too, I believe we're all on the same page, but it's not spelled out here that the location of this is by the fountain. Is that correct?
Correct.
Correct.
Okay.
And the bricks that we're talking about would be the ones that we sold to the
Correct.
citizens.
Correct.
Right.
Okay, are we ready to vote? Go ahead,
I
Ron.
just have one concern. We discussed it before, but it hasn't gone anywhere. I'm very, very concerned about that location, and bringing, for an example, a child or grandkid, where they have free access to Chicago Drive or Maine, where sometimes those cars are going 50, 55 miles an hour. I hope that we instruct Mrs. Smith that there's some type of design, where there's some type of cable wiring or something that prevents a child from just walking into the street. But I don't want it to block the view of the waterfall or the Veterans Memorial. There has to be a safety type of fence, wiring, I'm not sure what it is. I think that needs to be conveyed. The rest of you agree to that along Chicago Drive and Maine.
Safety, of course, is always a concern for all of us, I think.
Very much a concern. I'm not sure I would go so far as to instruct them to construct some type of barrier as much as just have them be very mindful of that in the design and the way that they design pedestrian flow in that area. I mean, I'd assume obviously they're not going to put a walkway or anything that people would want to be necessarily drawn to that area right up to the edge. But I mean, I'm a little hesitant when you say I want something that's a barrier, yet I don't want that to obstruct the view in any way. I mean, we're kind of putting a designer in a unique position, but I say let's let them do their work, bring it back to us, and give us a chance to comment from there to see if what they've drawn is acceptable or not.
Because I can see, just like the senior center, the elementary schools are very involved with lots of buses. So now we have the Veterans Memorial. Well, now all of a sudden we get a school bus coming there with 30 kids, with one or two teachers. It is impossible to supervise all those kids at that high traffic corner. So I think we need to tell the designer that we want something in place so that there's never an issue of safety. It would be a shame if something happened. It'd come back to this board saying, why did they ever put that Veterans Memorial at that location with that traffic flow? There has to be something in place for safety.
And go ahead, I'm
And
sorry.
can they be made aware that that's a concern of ours and that can be worked in?
Certainly it could be where it was a concern, but it would be hard to alleviate it totally. I can see where you're coming from. I mean, it is still going to be a busy road, but they can work toward it, yes. But we can wait and see what the designs look like. But, I mean, that's the downside of such a busy location. It's very visible, but it's also has that exposure for traffic.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay, the motion has been made and supported. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. That's carried. Now we come to our second public comment time, and so if there's anyone else that would like to address the board, please feel free to do so. Again, we ask that you give us your name and your address, and feel free to address us. Again, for 3 minutes.
I'm back. Michael Bosch, 896 Fairwood Court. In the consent agenda, I noticed there was a new truck for bids for DPW. At this past Thursday's Finance Committee meeting, nobody asked why, or if we even need one. It was just, yep, let's spend. Awesome. So I went ahead and asked some questions, and I'm sure most of the board members have done all their research and homework, because sticklers about coming prepared and stuff. But for those in the audience or at home that don't know, the explanation I was given was one of our DPW employees is going to take a more hands-on approach out in the field. Currently, he shares a Ford Escape with the assessor. Having his own truck will eliminate vehicle sharing conflicts. And I guess I had a few questions. The few times that there's a sharing conflict that they may arise, couldn't we just have them drive their personal vehicle and reimburse mileage? I mean, I know there was talk I think it was Services or Finance a while back, about getting a whole separate vehicle just for the part-time kids that work for 2 months out of the summer every 5 years for assessing, crazy stuff like that. But I think we can just reimburse them for their mileage for the few times it happens. And my other question, how are these two employees getting to and from work now? Do they take turns taking the Ford Escape home? Is that where the sharing conflict has arisen from? And then will the new truck be taken home each night with a DPW employee, adding more miles and wear and tear on the vehicle, as well as more liability risk to our township? And I guess my main question, why a new truck? What's wrong with a used truck? Because it doesn't sound like it's going to be used a whole lot. Maybe we could keep an eye out for a used low-mile vehicle, maybe something like a Ford F-250, a newer one like a 2008, with say only 47,000 miles on it, maybe a plow package, so if there's snow at a pump station that needs to be cleared, they could do that. The kind that sell on Auto Trader and Craigslist for $28,000 to $32,000. Oh, that's right, we had one of those 6 months ago, and we traded in for a whopping $18,500, about $12,000 to $14,000 below Blue Book. Why didn't we keep that? What was the rush to give it away so cheap? It would have been the perfect vehicle for our DPW truck. And now here we are looking at a new one. But in an interesting twist of fate, just this past weekend on the Georgetown Facebook page, we've got a chance for redemption. Our very own township is selling a 2003 Tahoe, which would be perfect for the DPW or the assessor. I'm thinking here's the board's chance for some redemption. We're going to redeem themselves, make a fiscally responsible decision. That would be fantastic. I know it's not a pretty new shiny truck, but the price is definitely right. And I'm not asking, I'm just begging, can we stop the reckless spending? Transparency, efficiency, and accountability, they should be our top priority. I'm looking forward to the day when I can come up here and praise you guys for my 6 minutes. Say, awesome job, awesome. I can't wait for that day. Just give me something to work with here. I'll be waiting. Thanks.
Is there anyone else who would like to address the board? Seeing no one else, then we'll move on to item 14, which is discussion and general information for the board. One of the things that I would like us to consider deals with the senior center, and I would like to make a motion to add this to the agenda. And in order to do that, I need support, and then we need a 2/3 vote. So I would make that motion to add the item to the agenda for discussion and possible action.
Support.
Okay, moved and supported. We ready to vote? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Contrary, no. Okay, that's carried. We've talked about...
Can I just ask before we, because I'm assuming we're going to make that like 14B or something.
Right.
Are we going to go through other discussion items before we handle that item then?
If you'd like to, I'm open to whatever you
I
on the
just wanted
board
a
would like
complete
to do.
discussion before we move on.
Go ahead.
If
Sure.
that's okay.
Sure.
A couple of the questions that came up earlier tonight. One, I know, Mr. Thompson, you'll stick around with Dan for Jackson Street. I know we actually pursued that several years ago, and the board has a strong interest in Jackson Street being paved. I would be curious, when in your conversation with Dan later, you allude to 86% support. I'm wondering if the fact that it's not 100% might be the same thing that hung us up a couple years ago, in that we've got some issues with being able to pave that road. Some work needs to be done that requires some additional property and stuff. So I guess what I would just share is talk with Dan later. The board has long had interest in Jackson Street being paved, but we have run into barriers ourselves in the past. So if we're able to move through those barriers, I think you would find a lot of support on the board, but Dan can provide background on that. To the comment that Mr. Sosa brought up earlier tonight about the public comments, I know that discussion has come up before. And there's several people have come up and said, wouldn't it be great if you could just write down everything I said? And we tried that many years ago when we had a bunch of other folks that would come to this board, and what we found is they never agreed word for word with what got written down. And so the board established a policy several years ago that we said, if somebody wishes to have their comments included in the minutes, we will include in the minutes whatever is provided to us in writing. So if somebody wants their comments to be reflected, and it can be as simple as if you just made a handwritten list of bullet points of things you wanted to talk about, whatever you write down for your public comments and provide to us, those will be posted along with the minutes as a link. That's better than Mrs. Minier trying to capture the essence of what was said or verbatim what was said, because we found in those situations, it's been a no-win situation for Mrs. Minier and the board to try and capture, because people disagree with the wording or the order as good of a job as she does. So anything people want included in the minutes, just either handwrite it down or provide us a written copy, and it will get included with the minutes, and that's for both committees as well as full board meetings. So I just wanted to respond to those points.
Good, thank you. That's good.
Rich, if I could also just kind of quickly, Mr. Thompson, I had a chance to talk to you a couple months ago, because I walk Jackson on a regular basis, and I agree with you. I'd love to see things taken care of there. I think it's very dangerous. You need to get the support of all the people along that road any way you can. I would recommend, if you can go door to door, but there's some key properties there where people just are not supportive at all, and that's holding things up dramatically. We could be talking some legal issues, I think some serious money. So if you can get your neighbors together, that would help dramatically. Also, concerning Mr. Sosa's comment, Ed, I know you're sincere, and this is a passion for you, but I also believe that the fact that we're videotaping all these meetings is a tremendous resource. Every word that's being said is being taped, so that is a great help. But also, I agree with Chad, if any of you would like to submit, I think that's also a very positive step. So, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Any other items for discussion?
I thought of one more for Mr. Bosch. His first set of comments regarding the $800 trash cans, it just made me want to clarify, because I had a wonderful email exchange with your father this week, and just to clarify, those figures that you're quoting come from, I believe, our previous meeting where we approved work to be done at Rosewood Park. And what that approval was authorizing MC Smith to continue with the design. They had provided us a budget estimate, but in no way have those numbers actually been expended, or will they be expended at the values listed. It's simply them as a designer being asked to provide us with a budget of what the work is likely to be. So all of the work, any trash cans, shoot, we could spend a lot less than 800. Who knows, we might spend 800, but I can guarantee you when that comes before the board, it'd probably be a really nice trash can for us to spend that much. But after the design work is completed, that project will be competitively bid. And one of those competitive bids may be awarded by this board at a future meeting, but at this point, we haven't authorized any expenditures in the park itself. So in the meantime, we'll see what we can do about those Craigslist. If you want to point us to the right Craigslist posting for those barrels, we'll see what we can find.
On that subject, I'm going to bring it back up at Service Committee, but the reason they haven't been installed yet is we used to have barrels there. I checked with the Parks Department. We had them there before, and we had a huge problem with dumping when they were so close to the parking lot. So
Yeah,
that's why they pushed
They
them
roll
away.
down that hill really good in the winter.
Well, no, people bringing trash to the
Bringing
park.
trash.
And so when they could get their car right up next to the trash can, it caused a huge problem. So they moved them farther back, and they haven't put them along the road. It doesn't mean we can't do it long term, but then we want to put them, we need to put them to the side where we can get them a little further away from the road on one of the sides there and get that done. Obviously, the snow will help us. We can get to it because we have to mount them. So, but that's the reason we're going to talk about that at service on Monday, because if you want to have them there, that dumping problem will happen again, where the trash cans kept being full during the night. So, but doesn't mean that time has passed and you can't try it again, so.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion?
Yes, I want to go back to what Ed talked about earlier, and I absolutely agree 100%. The public is not informed as well as they could be what's happening in the township. We've had this discussion since I've been on the board for over 2 years. I believe John is working on something, but I think we need to take action, and it could be just as simple as a monthly advertisement as a starting point in the advance, saying, this is what's happening at Rosewood Park. This is what's happening here. And obviously, we're able to put meetings out in the advance. And this would be a very, very simple thing. It's not the solution to all problems, but at least it's a beginning point where we can start listing the things that we're doing. Because you know what? There's a lot of positive things that are happening in the township. And Ed is completely right. Not everyone knows. And we need to resolve that. And the sooner the better. It would take no work of this board to get an ad in the advance 2 weeks from now. Just a little update. So I hope that all we think about it, or someone would like to make the motion to make that happen. Because it's been too long of a discussion with no action.
I like that concept, Ron, and I would like to see us move towards a newsletter where we can put something formally that goes out to the public. We need to build support for that.
Where are we at with that?
I think we're very close.
Is that in committee, or we're still working on it?
I would say we're still working on it, but it's close.
Would you object to doing both?
We have a new hire right now. I think that would probably be fitting into that person's responsibility. I'd like to see us look in that direction and maybe have that individual involved in actually developing it. I think that'd be a very positive step.
Okay.
Anything else? Well, then back to the additional item to add to the agenda, and I was going to preface it by making some comments about the senior center, but we've talked about the senior center for many, many years. So my motion is that I would recommend to the board that we move forward with building of a new 10,000 square foot senior center at a cost not to exceed $150 per square foot on the eastern portion of the 8th Avenue property, and that we authorize the superintendent to obtain design and construction proposals or a proposal for review by the board. And I would make that motion, and if someone supports it, I'd be interested in hearing your responses and discussion. Moved and supported. Comments, reactions?
I've long been a supporter of the senior center, and I think in general, I'm in favor of continuing to take steps in that direction. The senior center, it's a bit awkward to add it to the agenda and just do it tonight, but I think what I heard is the only thing we would be doing tonight is authorizing the superintendent to actually go and solicit a proposal to bring us back a proposal for design work. So we're not authorizing any cost with tonight's motion. So
Correct.
With that in mind, I'm comfortable with this discussion because I think it gives us an opportunity to let the community know we're serious about a senior center, but I would like to see us schedule some time with the folks at the senior center or an opportunity. We've talked about a community forum or a public forum for some time. This might be a good topic to bring up to a public forum. I'm supportive of Dan getting a proposal, but I'd like to go down or either invite the seniors up here for a public forum or go down there for a public forum and just have a chance to bat around what it could be with them.
I would agree with that. We've been working on this since 2009, and we have had some forums in the past on it, but it's time again to have another forum, I think, and get the opinions of the people, the director, and go ahead with
Yeah.
it.
What do you think, Ron?
Forum.
Yeah, good. What about you, John?
I'm supportive. I think it'd get us moving in a positive direction. I'm a little apprehensive that Jim and Dale aren't here, but I think they would be supportive of it, and I feel comfortable that we'd be okay.
Okay. Any other comments? Are we ready to vote? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, no. Okay, that's carried. Any other discussion? If there is none, we do have a request to go into closed session, and so a motion would be in order to go into closed session. Someone make that motion? Ron, you would probably be the likely person.
I'll make a motion that we go into closed session.
Support.
Moved and supported. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We will go into closed session. Would be in order? Support. Supported, moved and supported. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, that's carried. We have no business.
I'll move to adjourn.
Is that supported? Moved and supported to adjourn. All those in favor say aye. Aye. We are adjourned.